Millions of people around the world are experiencing extreme hunger, disease, and poverty, often leaving them feeling trapped and hopeless. But what if there was a simple way to transform this reality by teaching a practical, hands-on gospel that could lead to abundant life? Are you interested? I hope so, because this solution exists. It's called FARMSTEW, a recipe for abundant life. With God's help, we developed an 8-ingredient recipe. FARMSTEW provides instruction on farming, adopting a positive attitude, getting proper rest, eating healthy plant-based meals, using good sanitation, practicing temperance, building the capacity to start an enterprise, and gaining access to clean water. When families and communities adopt these practices, they leave behind their troubled lives and begin living the abundant life God created for them. They then experience freedom. Why does freedom matter? In Luke chapter 4, Jesus is recorded as saying that God has sent me to proclaim freedom. Later, in the letter to the Galatians, Paul writes saying, "You were called to freedom, brothers and sisters." God desires that no one would live in bondage, but that all would be free to live abundant lives. By implementing what FARMSTEW teaches, poor families and vulnerable people can achieve freedom from dependency. Washable cloth pads and menstrual hygiene education result in school-age girls experiencing freedom from shame. Clean water, efficient cook stoves, and well-built latrines lead to the freedom from drudgery and disease. Together with these and a biblical education on money management, families have the freedom to prosper. Finally, your financial support gives FARMSTEW the freedom to share by developing materials, providing training, and sharing resources with more and more people. FARMSTEW is partnering with ministries starting in Africa and spreading to Latin America and Asia to equip families and communities with the tools and freedom they need to live a more abundant and hopeful life. We have training of trainers events in many different countries to teach these principles to people so that they can go and in turn teach others. The recipe for abundant life is spreading around the world and lives are being changed. In Bible times, there was a group of people struggling for hope. They were refugees and poor, but God had a word for them through the prophet Jeremiah, and we embrace his promise. In Jeremiah 29, verse 11, God said, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope." 2023 is FARMSTEW's year of hope. We are seeing stories throughout the world like Mary, who I met in South Sudan not too many weeks ago. She lived in a town called Wow, and I tell you, all I could say was wow. She brought me first to the borehole where she gets water. It was literally a hole in the ground that children were crawling down into and getting murky, muddy water out of in order to drink and water their crops. But Mary had hope. She was watering a whole area that had turned into a beautiful garden. And then she took me to her home. Mary's home looked very humble, in fact, quite poor from our perspective. But she had a huge smile on her face when she took me into one of her thatched roof huts and showed me her abundant harvest. She thanked FARMSTEW as she brought me into the little hut that had a platform built on it to carry all of the bags that she had that honestly hardly gave her room to sleep in the hut anymore. She'd never had a harvest like that before in her life, and she thanked God for the ox plow and the training and the inspiration that she had gotten from FARMSTEW. It's because of support of people like you that have made Mary's life turn from that of suffering and bondage to that of hope and freedom. I want to invite you to be a part of this FARMSTEW family. By giving today, you can provide freedom to people around the world, and you can provide and plant that seed of hope in someone's life, the seed that leads into the recipe for abundant life. Thank you so much, and may God bless you abundantly.